a real chance, Jamie. Burnley are doing it slightly differently. Are Everton starting to do it slightly differently as well?
Yes, and I actually admire certainly what Frank's done in the last 4 games. And I think for any young coach coming in, and we say a young coach, Frank's now in his 3rd job, and we've all seen Frank, he's been at Derby, he's been at Chelsea, now at Everton. He wants to play football. So when we sort of put coaches in maybe in different categories, it was always, does he want to be a little bit like Pep, or does he want to be a bit like Jose? Now, Jose Mourinho's been a huge influence on his career, but we've seen his early stage as a manager. He wants to play out from the back. He wants to be almost like a Pep Guardiola type of manager. And what's happened is they've gone like Jose Mourinho in the last 4 games, and certainly the last 2. And the game that really scared Everton to thinking that they can go down, and they still possibly feel like that, was the Burnley game that they lost. So they lose that 3-2. And I just want to look at the stats now. So Frank's basically first 9 games compared to the last 4, that were since that Burnley game. And the actual goals in the game. So you think that was a 3-2 game at Burnley. We done them losing 5-0, I think, against Tottenham. So there was so many goals in the game. So that certainly stopped in the last 4 games. The one underneath, the possession, Everton, only 27%. Now, we've got to take into the fact that they played Liverpool and they played Chelsea, Manchester United in there as well. So a lot of the top teams. But we go down longer, passes long, again, another 6% is quite a jump. 10+ passes sequences. We've just highlighted that we're Burnley going one way. Everton have gone completely the other. So when Frank first came in, he's trying to get on the ball, making passes even round the back, going through midfield. That's changed. What's really interesting, as you go further down here, is that the actual attacking numbers have been pretty similar, even though there's so much down on possession. And I think a telltale sign for any sort of team, how you want to see how they play, is what they do when the goalkeeper gets the ball. And I want to go back to Frank Lampard's first game as a Premier League manager for Everton. It was away at Newcastle. They had a good win in the FA Cup against Brentford, but they go away to Newcastle, and this is 3 minutes in, and the ball comes to Jordan Pickford. Now, let's not forget, it was a pressure game. Newcastle were down there. Eddie Howe's teams like to press from the front. Frank would be well aware of that. And Newcastle are not dropping off and letting Everton play. There's the front 3 from Newcastle. They're ready to go and press. They want Everton to play out from the back. But you see Jordan Pickford, no, we're going out from the back. We're playing out from the back. Look, Michael Keane's saying, play. Don't worry if there's players there. This is what Frank will have tried to put into them. It was a little bit different under Rafa. But that's what Frank Lampard wanted to do. This is against Man City. And the reason I wanted to show this was because similar to sort of Chelsea and Liverpool, 2 of the top teams, one of the best pressing teams as well. So you see Jordan Pickford play short. He doesn't go long now. Tries to make a pass out wide. And again, this is one of the best teams in the world at winning the ball back. But that was the idea of Frank Lampard. And I go back to admiring what Frank's done in the last 4 games, because I don't particularly like it when managers say, you never change, you'd always keep the same message. And in the ideal world, Frank will want to play from the back and press from the front. But you can't always do that. And you just look at Jordan Pickford, we just highlighted them there now. And look at his actual goal kicks. So the first 8 games, almost a third of his goal kicks are going short. The last 4 appearances, 4% have gone short. And to basically let you know what that is, it's 1 goal kick in the last 4 games has gone short. I think it was against Manchester United. Now we go lower down. All passes short. First 8 games, 30%. That's been cut in half. And 86% long, obviously. We can do the maths there, the difference. But what's really jumped at me, certainly being at Anfield and watching the game again yesterday, was how direct Everton were in those 2 games. And we just look at Jordan Pickford's pass map, if you like. He's had the ball 44 times at his feet. He's gone long every single time. Now, that is a complete change for Frank Lampard in terms of his philosophy and how he went about things, not in other jobs, just at Everton. Now, the interesting thing for me is, will that continue? And I think that's, we'll find out in the next couple of games. But
so how did they do it yesterday? Roy was there watching, enjoying the atmosphere, no doubt. But how did they actually do it on the pitch?
Well, what they did was, and I've said a lot in this show, ever since I've been doing this show for the last sort of 7 or 8 years, Everton football. And I know that through obviously being a kid, but Goodison Park, going long, getting on second balls, being aggressive. And that's what Everton did yesterday. So they press in and made Chelsea go long. The ball comes to Iwobi. Now, I'm sure when Frank first gets the job, he's encouraging Iwobi maybe to pass in there, maybe even go back out the other side, maybe go back to the goalkeeper. This is a minute into the game. They go long. It's not a bad pass, actually, it's unlucky. But Richarlison's on his own against 2 strikers. But it feels like the message is go forward. You try and press here in this situation and get lots of bodies around the ball. So when they then eventually win the ball, you're talking about 7 players. Might even be more, might even actually be 8 players around the ball, caging Chelsea in. Not too worried about playing through the lines, no. We're going to go along and we're going to make it horrible and difficult. The ball now goes back to the goalkeeper. We've just seen what Pickford's done for the last few weeks. No doubt for me, he maybe plays Keane in. Maybe even tries to go into midfield in the first couple of games under Frank Lampard. Not anymore, not at the moment. He goes long. And again, we've just seen 7 players over one side of the pitch trying to get round second balls, trying to make it horrible for Chelsea. And again, we see exactly the same now. 7 players all around the ball trying to make it really difficult for Chelsea, being direct and being what I would call Everton football. Even if you're talking about going back to the 80s in some ways, how they played at different times. Now, again, what I thought was really good about Everton is it's not just pressing mad. We've seen the press where they get them on one side, but a lot of the time it was that mid-block there. They weren't, the back 5 weren't up at the halfway line. So this is straight from the kick-off. So I thought the pressing was fantastic. It was actually really well thought about, not diving in, going flying out. You see Decore now going run out. But again, not going flying and stopping and doing something silly. And then what they do is they end up getting Chelsea again on one side. And that's what they did throughout the game. Can we get them to one side, then cage them on that side and lock them out? See Anthony Gordon's angle of his run to push Rudiger forward. And then you've got 4 Everton players around the ball doing the throw-in. Now, what I would say is, now, very rarely do we see people just throw the ball down the line. When you're near your goal, you throw it as far as you can down the line, you don't want to lose it. But more often than not, now we see teams, someone will drop off, you'll throw it in there to your midfield player. Maybe Seamus Coleman would drop off. You might try and get it into your number 10. But again, it just smacks of Everton saying, we're not taking any chances with this. This is going down the line. And you don't see it as much now. Certainly when someone's got on the halfway line. But when they were in a position to press, they pressed. Richarlison does brilliantly. It's a great finish. It really is in that position. And again, it would just take me back to Everton football. But another thing that, I don't know if you noticed being at the game, Roy, what Everton have done in the last sort of 4 games, they've almost been, not just really aggressive, they've antagonised the opposition.
They're on the wind-up.
Yeah, they have. The crowd before the game, talking about the fireworks, the scenes before the game. But you actually go back to the most yellow cards in Everton games under Frank Lampard. And the last 3 games Everton have played, Leicester, Liverpool and Chelsea yesterday. Now, it's not all yellow cards for them. I'm talking about over-the-top tackles or being aggressive. It's winding the opposition up. The big melee with Liverpool last week. Yesterday, you see Mason Mount early on pushing someone, getting involved. Havertz all day with Mina at the back. And you look at their actual average, what it was to start with, and the difference there. So you're looking at Everton being a lot more streetwise and almost being Jose Mourinho-like.
It's like they've simplified things. And I think the players will be delighted. Particularly the back 4, the back 5.
Why?
Because they can just focus on defending, instead of getting off the goalkeeper, where Everton aren't that great playing out from the back, and it was causing them a lot of trouble. And Frank, obviously, and credit to him, and his staff have recognised that and thought, listen, we need to simplify this. If we're going to lose it, we're going to lose it going forward. Obviously, direct balls. And I've been to Everton as a player, as a manager, yesterday as a fan of football, and the atmosphere was electric. And I think the fans were delighted with that. They were delighted with the fact that we were getting forward. And they had great chances. It's not as if they didn't get the rewards for it. Of course, it was vital they got that first goal.
How did you feel as a neutral and watching it, Roy, in terms of some of the antics from Everton?
I believe it or not, I was getting really frustrated. I thought it was like some of the stuff they were doing was disgraceful. The time wasting, every time it was an injury, they were staying down for ages. Pickford, the goalkeeper, made some great saves, but his time wasting was disgraceful. But I totally get it.
Yeah, it doesn't have
they have to win a game of football. Sorry?
Doesn't that have to be the way from now on?
I think we're Everton now. You're fighting for your lives. We're talking about survival for Frank, for the players, for the supporters. Yesterday, the atmosphere, it was electric. And before the game, I always thought Everton in big trouble. But after being good as seen yesterday, I'm thinking, I think Everton will stay up. Just the fact, I know they've got away games, but they're home form. With that atmosphere, the players simplify it and getting behind the ball, obviously. Pressing, which they got the rewards for the goal. That spirit, that energy. Again, as I said, I think the defenders will be delighted that they haven't got that responsibility of playing out from the back. Their total focus is on just defending. When it goes back to the keeper, we get up the pitch, and me and Jamie spoke earlier. They look like you can enjoy defending. Defending's a good part of the game, but not worried about the other side of it.
So it's interesting when you consider the games that Everton